Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome back to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're bringing you a first look at Tier VI Premium Commonwealth cruiser, INS Mysore. Now, the reason that we're doing Mysore today instead of looking at some of their higher tier ships is because yesterday we looked at Tier 10 Premium British cruiser HMS Plymouth, which was really kind of largely an upgunned, up-tiered version of Tier 7 British light cruiser HMS Fiji. Mysore here is kind of the opposite. She's like a down-gunned, down-tiered version of Fiji, which makes sense because ultimately Mysore here is a Crown Colony class cruiser, just like Fiji. Mysore began her career as HMS Nigeria, the second ship in the Crown Colony class. In 1954, she was sold to India before being heavily refurbished with modern electronics and communication gear that necessitated the removal of her X-turret back here on the stern. This aftermast was kind of added, and this whole superstructure area was beefed up as a part of all of the various changes. So what we have here at the core is a Fiji, a Tier 7 Fiji, down-tiered into Tier 6. I mean, at least on paper, that's what we have. Let's look around, though, at the stats and try to dig a little deeper. Starting off here, hit point pool, 30,600. For a Tier 6 light cruiser, this is pretty solid. Most mid-tier light cruisers do not crack the 30,000 HP barrier, with only Russian Budioni and French Premium de Grasse cracking that number, and of course now Mysore joining them. Armor-wise, guys, this is a Fiji, right? If you want to know I want to get in-depth in this armor scheme, go pull up a Fiji in your port, pull up the armor viewer, have a look. All the way down to this 114mm belt, the fully submerged Citadel. It's the same armor scheme. There are no changes here. Nothing fancy, okay? Now, the nice thing about this is Fiji's armor scheme is not terrible for Tier 7, and now we're going to take her down a tier into Tier 6. That has something that's noteworthy, right? Because now she has the potential to see, let's say, Tier 5 battleships, which, 12-inch guns, 14-inch guns, these kinds of things. Her armor scheme will hold up better against those kinds of opponents. In terms of speed and handling, maneuverability, and concealment over here, 31.5 knots, a little slower than Fiji. 610 turning circle, a little wider than Fiji. But these are minor. It's literally, we're talking about a 1 knot lower speed, 20 meters on the turning circle. This ship's going to handle like Fiji does. Like, I can't imagine a world where she doesn't. This top speed, I will note, is a little on the slow side for Tier 6. Most Tier 6 cruisers are faster than this. There's a couple that are slower or right at the same speed bracket. The overwhelming majority of Tier 6 cruisers are faster than this, so she's not going to win any speed races. Concealment-wise, this 9.6, full concealment build here is pretty nice. Now, there are 3 Tier 6 cruisers that are stealthier than Mysore, all kind of related to her in some fashion or other. That's HMAS Perth, HMS Leander, and Hwang Hae over in the Pan-Asian line. So, all of those, incidentally, by the way, are Leander or some variant of a Leander-class ship. And they clock in anywhere from 8.3, I think, on the low end is Hwang Hae. 8.6, I think, is Perth. And then I think Leander herself is like 9.3 or 9.2 or something like that. So, I mean, it's not too bad, right? Like 9.6 for a mid-tier cruiser. I mean, sub 10 for a mid-tier cruiser is pretty good, kids. And like I said, there's only 3 other ships that beat this out, and she's got a lot going for her in that regard. As you would expect, looking at the main battery, these are the same rifles mounted by Fiji. The 152mm, 50 caliber Mark 23 barrel. The main difference is in the battery range. The main battery range. You see there, 14-kilometer main battery range. This is basically stock Fiji range. Fully buffed Fiji is 15.4 kilometers. That's with when you add the 10% buff that she gets from upgrading her fire control module. And of course here, you don't get that. So this is like stock Fiji range of 14 kilometers. It's still better than Leander at 13.2. So, I mean, you've got a little more range to play with. These are the same shells. Fired at the same reload speed. So we're still looking at 7.5 second reload, fired at the same shells. So you would expect similar shell performance to Fiji and Leander. And that's where Wargaming is going to trip you up, okay? And this is where we have to dive off and get weird for a minute, okay? When you do some digging in some of the third-party stat aggregator sites and data mining sites, what you discover is that these actually aren't the same shells fired by Fiji and Leander. These are the same shells fired by HMAS Perth, her sister ship in the Commonwealth tech tree. What that means is that the fuse timers and detonation thresholds for the AP shells are different than the British tech tree cruisers. Okay, so actually, right now, these AP shells, and if you'll notice there, Mysore can only fire AP shells. Okay, will perform just like the AP on Perth and not like the AP on Leander or Fiji. The problem is Mysore does not have HE to fall back on against angled targets like Perth does. This is a huge handicap. I honestly question how you're going to get good performance out of these shells against anybody who shows you the slightest angle. At least the British shells, with the fuse timers and everything, will do some solid damage, even to bow on targets from time to time, especially if you can clip them up into the superstructure or the upper works. But you can't, like, Mysore is not going to do that. Like, when on a Perth, when a target goes angle into me, you just swap to the HE. Mysore can't do that. And I'm really questioning if this is intentional or a coding error. It feels to me like a coding error. Why would you attempt to force an AP-only ship through testing that doesn't have the advanced AP performance characteristics of the British light cruiser line? Like, you can, but why would you? It feels bad. So we'll see. I really hope they change this in testing. Torpedoes. Yeah, haha. No torpedoes. Fooled you. You just thought I was going to talk about torpedoes. This little gap right here, midships on this deck, is where you would traditionally find the triple torpedo launcher mounted by Fiji or any of her sister ships. But negative. It is not here, not present. So, sorry. When Nigeria was transferred to the Indian Navy, those were removed. And no, we're accurate to a fault here. They're gone. AA-wise, this ship is basically the equivalent of a Leander. If you've played Leander in the tech tree and you know her AA suite, what she can and can't do, the kind of damage she puts out against planes, you're basically getting the same thing here. Okay, you're getting a couple of flak puffs here out of the long range and a little bit of mid-range punch there on the backs of these 40mm Bofors mounts. That's basically it. This AA suite is probably serviceable for, self-defense, shooting down a few planes here and there against a Tier 6 carrier. Against a Tier 8 carrier, your life's going to suck. It's just the way it is. Nothing you can do about it. Welcome to the life of a mid-tier cruiser. It's just the way it goes. When you're bottom tier against a top-tier carrier and some of these mid-tier cruisers without defensive fire, woof. There's a handful of exceptions like USS Dallas, but most of them, woof. Sucks to be you. Consumables. Now, there's nothing super exciting or original here, but at least we're starting to get a sense of where they're going with this ship, right? You look over the consumables list, you see, of course, damage control party, standard mid-tier cruiser Hydra with a 4-kilometer range, and then the crawling smoke generator. This is the same crawling smoke generator deployed aboard her sister ship, HMAS Perth, and then, of course, HMCS Haida uses basically the same consumable as does Huanghe over in the Pan-Asian tree. So, essentially, like, what we're trying to do here is, this ship is going to play almost identical to a Perth. The problem to me is Perth is in the same tier and gets the benefit of HE shells that Mysore doesn't. And they both of those ships fire the same AP shells. And, by the way, Perth can equip a spotter plane, which Mysore doesn't have access to, which will give her a range boost on occasion, which means that on occasion, Perth will even, for decent stretches, Perth will even have more range than Mysore. So, what's the point of this ship? Why would I play this ship instead of Perth? Why would I buy this ship instead of buying a Perth? She offers me nothing. She has the same problem I find in Plymouth, right? Like, why? Why does this ship exist? She offers the same mechanics. It's a cruiser hidden in this crawling smoke generator. The problem is that Perth gives me more flexibility. I have the possibility of more range, plus the HE shells. Mysore takes these away. Why would I play the inferior version? I got nothing. It doesn't make any sense. I want to believe. I've got to believe. I have to believe to convince myself that the ship has a purpose. That the coding of these AP shells is a mistake. And that at some point during testing, they will get it fixed. That's all I can think of. Giving her HE shells is pointless because then she becomes literally a clone of Perth, which we already have and has never been on the naughty list, is going to continue to be available and for sale. So the only way to make this ship different, to really make her stand out and differentiate her, is to give her The AP only armament, fine, but you've got to give her the AP, the higher quality, shorter fuse timer, shorter detonation threshold AP shells that go with that restriction. Okay, and right now she doesn't have it, so we got to keep a close eye on this one in testing, guys, because if they don't fix something, I don't know why anybody would ever buy this ship or spend any time acquiring it. Like, what's the point? So, anyways, that's where we are with this ship for the moment, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Be safe out there. Wash your hands. And I'll catch you next time.